Hello everyone, so good to see you. Over the years, I've really come to appreciate a game with a strong or memorable art style. It's not something that can easily be achieved, and those who accomplish distinct direction or memorable character designs don't always get the credit or respect that they deserve. Well, we're here to highlight somebody in that space. GVG recently received the opportunity to interview and talk to Takaya Imamura, a video game designer who first started working with Nintendo in 1989. He is responsible for the character and machine designs of F-Zero, the cast of Star Fox, various designs in Majora's Mask like Tingle and the Moon, and more. Imamura left Nintendo in 2021 and has since then not only been working as an educator, but also creating a brand new game. Omega 6 The Triangle Stars is his latest creation, a 16-bit adventure taking inspiration from classic point-and-click visual novel style games set in a sci-fi setting. I got to ask not only about his new game, but also his tenure at Nintendo and where some of his various inspirations came from. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions today. I'm a graphic artist, and so I'm a big fan of the work you've done in some of my favorite Nintendo games.
Thank you very much.
So, for those who don't know, in your words, what is Omega 6 The Triangle Stars?
It's a science fiction adventure based on the original work of a manga I drew myself, which I then, for whatever reason, decided to turn into a game.
Since this was originally a manga, what was the inspiration to take that manga and translate it into a video game? Was there a specific reason that you did so?
It came about because I was approached by somebody who wanted to make a game with me. They had an engine to make adventure games, and we were discussing, what could we do with this together? I had the manga and brought it up as a world and story that I had built. The ideas came and happily matched together.
Is the story in the manga different from the story that players will experience in the game?
So it's a bit like Star Trek. The characters are the same, the setting is the same, but in the game and the comic, there's different planets and characters, different episodes that occur within those two.
Ah, so if I were to read the manga, I would have a completely different perspective of the characters in the world?
Yes, exactly.
I understand that certain designs you've made at Nintendo are based on people that you know in real life. Are there any characters in Omega 6 whose designs are also inspired by people that you know now?
In the game Omega 6, there are several characters based on the development staff. In the manga, however, they're all original characters.
Is there anything that you weren't able to do in other games like Star Fox or F-Zero that you finally found the opportunity to do so in Omega 6?
I would say having both a hero and a heroine, as a duo or a team.
Oh, so having dual protagonists. I see, that's very interesting. Out of all the work that you've done, what would you say is your personal favorite project while working at Nintendo?
That would be Star Fox 64, or the Lilat Wars as it's called in some regions.
Whenever I look at Omega 6, I see the human designs that remind me of F-Zero, but also the non-human designs that are reminiscent of Star Fox. It's been very interesting to see both of your directions of character design, but in one game.
Thank you!
Do you prefer the freedom of working independently on a game like Omega 6, or do you miss some of the structure you had working with Nintendo?
Looking back to when I first joined Nintendo, making games on the Super Famicom, the teams were very small back then. Since then I've always been thinking, I'd love to go back to making a game with a small team. Nowadays we refer to games made by small teams like that as indies. I've had this desire to return to my roots, and getting back to that has been great.
Yeah, I've always noticed that with smaller indie teams, there's a greater, careful focus on the product. They feel a lot more like passion projects as opposed to larger productions these days. Based on what I played so far, I definitely get that feel from this.
Thank you so much.
So, I personally really love Star Fox, but the series has been quiet. Do you think there's still a future for Star Fox? And if you could, what direction would you take if a new game was made?
I think if it was a new game, I'm sure whatever comes out of Nintendo would be great and very fun. I haven't given that as much thought, but what I would really like to work on or help out with is a film. If there's ever a film, I want to be there and be a part of that.
I would love a Star Fox film. Nintendo did a short animation for Star Fox Zero. That's the closest we've gotten to that. I think that direction would fit the universe very well. I'm just hoping that Star Fox Assault will be released on Switch sometime.
This is purely conjecture on my part, but I think the Switch 2 will at some point be able to play GameCube games and DS games. If that comes to be, I'm sure there will be opportunities to play those previous games as well.
Oh, I hope so. Now, shifting to another series, I really enjoyed the art style used in F-Zero and F-Zero X. It reminds me of American-style comic books. Was there something that inspired you to take that art direction with those games?
Thinking back, it was Tim Burton's Batman that was released in cinemas around that time, in 1989. Following that, there were quite a few superhero films that were released. I think I was likely influenced by that to some degree.
I did always think that a lot of the F-Zero racers look a lot like superheroes.
Back then, that kind of art direction was not very common. You didn't see it very much, especially in Japanese games and media. There were a lot less superhero movies back then as well, unlike nowadays.
Are you using a similar inspiration for Omega 6, or did something else influence your art style for this series?
Omega 6 is more inspired from the French artist Mobius, aka Jean Giraud, who passed away a couple of years ago. I took inspiration from that era more than anything.
Speaking of that art style, how did you feel when F-Zero 99 was announced and that it was also using the art from the original F-Zero?
Shame.
It was kind of embarrassing, to be honest. It's more that I look back and remember how I was very young when I first drew that. I look at it now and think, I wish I could redo that.
I remember seeing the manual for the original F-Zero and it had a comic about Captain Falcon. I personally think it's still really cool, and I know there are others who appreciate that art style as well. Finally, is there anything that you'd like to tell fans of your work, or for those who might be interested in a game like Omega 6 The Triangle Stars?
Omega 6 is the game where there's much more of me and my personality in it than any game I've worked on so far. So if you're interested, Omega 6 is the game to play.
I'm aware that you're on social media like Bluesky. I recommend anyone listening to this to check it out. I love the art that you post, like with Samurai Girl racing the Super Famicom.
I'm uploading pictures every day. It's me just going back to my roots, enjoying art, and remembering the things that helped inspire me in the past.
It is always great to see an artist continue to grow and work on their passions beyond just doing a job for a corporation, and I hope that continues.
I'll keep working at it.
I am such a fan of F-Zero, Star Fox, Majora's Mask. I have a lot of respect for the art direction behind them, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I look forward to playing more of Omega 6.
Thank you very much.
A lot of people often won't think about how much art direction affects the feel of a game. No matter what a game looks like, the structure and framework of the gameplay will often remain the same. Think about how similarly Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask play, but how different they feel in mood and setting. Imamura had a hand in the distinct art direction of Majora's Mask, and that unique flavor helps it stand out amongst the other Zelda titles. Art direction is so important in games, and it takes a lot to marry both gameplay and mood in such a seamless way. As an art director of sorts myself, it was an honor to talk to Imamura and get a feel for what helped inspire some of the many iconic characters of Nintendo today. I'm very thankful for those who helped arrange this interview and for GVG to allow me to conduct it. It was kind of my first one with the dev from Nintendo, so I hope it was okay. Omega 6 The Triangle Stars releases on February 28th, available on Nintendo Switch and Steam. I hope you'll check it out and support Imamura's future ventures. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please keep an eye on GVG for more features, early looks, and more. You can support us on Patreon, follow us on Bluesky, and watch us on Twitch. Alright everyone, take care of yourselves, and consider thanking an artist for the work that they do. The world would be a lot less colorful otherwise. Till we meet again.